There's one thing few people say outright, but you can feel it so clearly. The feeling of becoming a burden. Not because anyone says so, but from the worried look in your family's eyes when you need help. From the long silence after each time you try to hide the pain, and the times you want to check in but are afraid to be a bother. Why is it that as we get older, we more easily feel we no longer belong? Is it because of declining health, because we're no longer quick enough or flexible enough to care for ourselves? Or because mounting medical bills make you feel you are a burden on your family? You might not say it, but you know deep down that feeling is very real. The truth is, many older adults in America are quietly living with this feeling of being left behind. They were once the ones in charge, the pillars of the family, the people who were always needed. And yet, when the body is no longer as steady, that role seems to simply fade away. The more you compare yourself to your stronger past, the more you feel the emptiness of the present. No one wants to be a burden, but the most frightening thing is when you start believing you truly are one. In this video, we'll explore the hidden reasons behind the feeling that I am a burden. From declining health, financial strain, a sense of being forgotten, to the psychological toll of aging, each reason can make you question your own self-worth. But by understanding the root causes, you will see that feeling doesn't come from who you are, but from changes you can absolutely identify and face. By this video's end, you won't just see clearly why you've felt this way, but you'll also know how to stop letting that feeling define you. And you will realize you were never a burden. It's just that no one has helped you see it the right way. Stick with me until the very end, because the final message is just for you. Let's dive in. Reason 1, declining health and independence. There's one thing most of us are never ready for. That moment our body stops listening like it used to. You are still the same you from yesterday, with powerful memories, years of tireless work, handling every big and small thing at home. But then, one morning, you realize it takes more time just to get out of bed. One hand gripping a chair, one hand on the table, just to take a few simple steps to the living room. Movements that were once second nature have now become deliberate and hesitant. A health decline never arrives loudly. It is quiet, silent, but definite. Every dizzy spell, every time you forget a familiar object's name, every time you sit down and can't get right back up, are all gentle reminders from your body that you are not the same. But what breaks your heart most isn't the physical change, but the feeling of losing your independence. When you have to ask someone else for a glass of water, when you find yourself hesitant to go anywhere fearing you won't make it to a restroom in time, when you hesitate to call your son knowing he's busy in a meeting but you still cannot open the medicine cap yourself. Losing the ability to do the smallest things can make you feel like you are complicating other people's lives. And from there, a thought creeps into your mind. Am I a burden? Eleanor, an 82-year-old woman from Minnesota, once shared, "There is nothing sadder than seeing my grandchild waiting in the car just because I walk slower than normal." That statement isn't just sadness. It is a raw, emotional confession about the fear of being left behind. But physical change is a natural part of aging, and it doesn't make you any less valuable. Independence doesn't disappear, it just needs to be adapted in new ways. You can use a cane for better stability, use assistive devices to bathe safely, or simply learn to accept that asking for help doesn't make you a nuisance. And remember, you are not losing your independence. You are just learning a new way to maintain it. Reason 2, the financial burden on your family. No one wants to be the reason their family has to worry about money. And yet, the older you get, the harder it is to shake the feeling you're a financial strain on your loved ones. A prescription for a few $100s each month, a minor surgery that still requires a hefty insurance copayment, an ambulance call in the middle of the night, you know it was necessary. But your son's worried look the next day leaves you unsettled. You start second-guessing every time you need a new assistive device. You hesitate when the doctor suggests more tests, fearing the kids will have to pay for this. Though no one says a word, you quietly cut your own expenses, forgoing a favorite meal, postponing a routine checkup, or skipping a visit to a friend because of the gas money. That feeling that you're eating into your children's future is truly heavy. Not because you need much, but because you were always the one to provide. You were the one who handled everything from groceries to college tuition. Now, a single medical bill makes you uneasy when you hand it to a family member for their records. Thomas, 79, once said, "I still have Medicare, but every specialist visit means my daughter has to drive me and cover the copay. I feel worse for her than I do for myself." That is the simple truth for millions of seniors. They don't fear illness as much as they fear being an added burden on their loved ones. But you know, your value has never been measured by a bank account. Your presence, love, wisdom, and the memories you bring to your family, those are things no one can replace. You may no longer be the provider, but you are still the emotional anchor, the keeper of traditions, the person your family turns to for wisdom Google can't provide. And sometimes accepting their help is the greatest gift you can give your family, letting them repay some of the love you've given over so many years. Reason 3, feeling forgotten or unnecessary. There's a silent kind of sadness. It's when you sit in a room full of voices, yet feel as if you're not really there. You hear your family's laughter, the lively conversations about work, social media, new trends. But it seems no one asks what you think or simply says, "Mom, how are you feeling today?" You were once at the center of every family event. A meal felt empty without you. But now sometimes you're only told after everything is already arranged, as an announcement, not a consultation. From planning a holiday to choosing a nursing home, even scheduling a doctor's appointment, you find you're no longer consulted like you used to be. That feeling of being forgotten doesn't come all at once, but in small moments. Like when your child posts a family photo, but you aren't in it because we were afraid you'd get tired. Or when someone tells an old story, but skips the part of the memory you held so dear. Like when you say something and no one responds, as if you were invisible. One day, Linda, 80, told her granddaughter, "You know, some days I don't talk to anyone. Not because no one's home, but because no one seems to notice that I need to." That seemingly gentle sentence left her granddaughter speechless. Because she'd never complained, her silence had simply lasted too long. But my friend, no one is meant to be forgotten. Perhaps today's world moves too quickly and people unintentionally leave behind the slower pace of life, and you are a part of that. But it is also you, with your old stories, your calmness, your seasoned perspective, who is the family's anchor in the midst of chaos. You are still needed, not because you can do something grand, but because your very presence brings a sense of security. A hug, a word from you, might be all grandchild needs to get through a tough day. Silence doesn't mean invisibility, and sometimes you just need to speak up. And everyone will realize the quietest, warmest light in the house is still you. Reason 4, comparing yourself to your healthier past. There are times you look in the mirror and wonder, is this really me? The gray hair, wrinkled skin, the slower steps. It is all you, but not the you from before. Not the person who worked nonstop, who could lift heavy things without feeling fatigue. Not the person who stayed up all night with a sick child, or the one who ran the whole house alone when their partner was away. Now, simply standing up from a chair makes you pause for breath. As people get older, they tend to live more in their memories, not to complain, but to reassure themselves they used to be like that. But those memories, if you're not careful, can become an emotional trap. You start comparing your present to your past, and each comparison makes you feel like you're falling short of your former self. You remember when you were young, one night's rest was all it took to recover. Now a mild cold can drag on for a week. You remember being head of the table, consulted on every big and small decision. Now your children decide, and you're just informed after the fact. You remember going to the market, riding a bike, jogging. Now every trip outside needs careful planning, maybe even a companion. Samuel, 77 from California, once wrote in his journal, "I'm not afraid of getting old. I'm just sad the gap between me today and me at 50 keeps widening." Those words capture something many seniors can't say, that the deepest sadness comes not from illness, but from losing that powerful image of themselves. But you know change is inevitable. Your body may weaken, your memory may fade, but that doesn't erase what you've done or who you are. The wisdom, foresight, calmness, and patience, all things only time can forge, exist inside you. You are not who you used to be, and that isn't a loss. It is a transformation. From a person who did many things to a person who has lived many experiences, from a doer to a guide. Don't let the past become a shadow that makes you feel faded. Let it be a light that illuminates your present value. No longer as quick, perhaps, but far more profound. Reason 5. Relying on others for daily activities. There is one thing that gives older adults the most heartache, not sickness, not pain, but the feeling of having to ask for help. You were always the one caring for others. Now you have to wait for someone to help button your shirt, get you a glass of water, or guide you to the bathroom. These small things, seemingly insignificant, become an invisible line between freedom and dependency. Increasingly, you become reluctant to ask, reluctant to interrupt your busy family, reluctant to disrupt their work, reluctant even to repeat yourself because you know they might forget. At some point, you choose to just tough it out, handling things yourself despite the difficulty, finding ways to hide what you can't do just to hold on to your self-respect. But in your heart, you know the truth. You are relying on help, and that makes you feel small. Joan, 81, from Texas, recounted, "I used to cook for the whole family. Now I have to wait for my daughter to help wash vegetables because my hands can't hold a knife steady anymore. I know she loves me, but my heart still sinks a little." Her story isn't uncommon because everyone eventually must face the truth. Aging is a journey of slowly letting go of the ability to do everything alone. But what you must remember is that dependence is not failure. It is a natural part of life. Just as we cared for our children years ago, not because they were weak, but out of love. And now, when you receive help, it doesn't make you any less valuable. On the contrary, it's an opportunity to connect, for your family to learn how to give care, for younger generations to learn about gratitude. Instead of struggling to prove you're still fine, you can choose a gentler path, accepting help as part of a two-way street of love. And then each act of care is no longer charity, but is your family's way of saying, you are still our center, still so important. Relying on help for daily tasks doesn't mean losing your dignity. You are still you, the person who built a home and now the person teaching everyone to slow down and love more deeply. Reason 6, the psychological toll of aging. There are wounds that don't bleed, but ache more than any physical pain. It's that feeling of emptiness, of hollowness, and sometimes a soul-deep weariness you just can't name. You still eat, you still sleep, you still try to keep a routine, but inside you feel like you're slowly fading away. Aging doesn't just bring illnesses of the bones, heart, or memory. It also takes a silent toll on your mental health. Anxiety for no clear reason, fear of being alone, a persistent loneliness even with people around. And the danger is many people dismiss these symptoms as a normal part of getting old, and so they suffer in silence. You may have had sleepless nights, not from simple insomnia, but because your mind is racing with thoughts. Will anyone visit tomorrow? What if something happens to me? Am I still useful at all? These questions have no answers, but they weigh heavily on your heart. David, 75, once said, "I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of waking up one day and realizing nobody needs me anymore." That sentence perfectly captures what age-related illness can do. Not just weaken the body, but also erode your very sense of purpose. But my friend, your mind needs care just like your body, and you deserve to be heard, to have support, to get therapy, not because you're weak, but because you are human. The emotions you're feeling aren't a sign of decline, but a signal to begin a new journey of self-care, a journey of healing from the inside out. There are simple, effective solutions: a weekly community group, a talk with a counselor, or even just journaling to process your own thoughts. A healthy mind doesn't just help you live longer, it helps you live with a sense of peace, something everyone deserves, no matter their age. Old age isn't a journey of shutting down. It is a journey that requires more nurturing. And your soul, like a neglected garden, just needs the right care to bloom again. Now that you've heard the deep reasons so many older adults feel like a burden, I want you to pause and ask yourself a very important question. Have I ever put that feeling on myself before anyone else even could? Because the truth is, most of that feeling doesn't come from family or from society. It comes from those moments you realize you can no longer do what you used to, from silent comparisons with your past, from recurring pain, from the worried look on a loved one's face. But my friend, none of that means you are useless. It only means one thing. You are entering a new chapter, where your value isn't in physical strength, but in experience, wisdom, and emotional depth. You have nothing left to prove. Your presence alone is precious. Linda, Samuel, David, each has a story, and each once thought their role was over. But then they realized they didn't have to be the same as before to be loved. They just needed to be present, exactly as they were. And so are you. You don't need to push yourself to be less trouble. You don't need to withdraw just because you think you're bothering your family. You have the right to be vulnerable, the right to lean on your loved ones, just as they once leaned on you. You don't have to be perfect to be cherished. Right now, you can do one small thing: pick up the phone, call a loved one, and say the words you haven't dared to. Today, I'm feeling a little weak. I just need you here. And you will see, the love never stopped. It was just waiting for you to open your heart. If this video resonated with you, please share your thoughts down in the comments. It could be your story, or just a message for someone who relates. You never know, you might help someone else feel less alone on their journey. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue this journey together, so no one ever has to feel like a burden, not for a single moment.